everybody, welcome back to the studio. In today's video I want to talk about the one thing that you can do to make your pictures better. Or, if you want to twist that around, the one thing that most people don't do that destroys their photography. Now, I've seen all the posts, I've seen YouTube videos, I've seen all these so-called experts give their, what's the one thing? I've seen them say that it's because you're shooting a APS sensor, not a full-size sensor. I've seen them say it's because you're shooting Canon and not Nikon, or Nikon and not Sony, or Sony and not... I've seen them say it's because you're shooting a DSLR and you should be shooting a mirrorless camera. Well, camera selection has very, very little to do with making great photos. I've seen the posts say that it's the lens. You need to go out and buy a different lens, a different range. You need to buy a fixed lens and not a prime lens, or a prime lens or a fixed lens and not a zoom lens. I'm even mixing it up. Or you need to go and buy a professional lens, or you need to go buy this lens. Well, lenses do play more of a role than the camera bodies in much of photography, but it's not the biggest mistake or the biggest improvement that can be made. I've seen people say, well, it's the fact that you're not using manual mode, that you're using program mode, or that you're using this mode, or you're using that or the other thing. And yes, that applies a lot too. And none of this stuff can be ignored, but it's not the big issue. I've seen people say it's because you're hand holding and you're not using a tripod. I've seen people say that it's this and that's not that, and that this should be done or that should be done. I've seen all of it. I've heard people say that you have to fly halfway around the world if you want to take good pictures. I've seen people say you have to change just everything, just stuff you would not believe. But those aren't the problems. Now, do some of them influence? Can some of them improve? Certainly. In fact, straight outright, I don't use a tripod for very much. But I would never suggest going out and doing long exposures of a waterfall or of photos if you do not have a tripod. It's just not worth it. It just can't be done well, easily, professionally. It just can't. But I'm not going to tell you to take a tripod out at all times to your kid's soccer game or to your niece's wedding or to whatever, because a lot of these situations, a tripod just won't help. I know professional photographers that shoot weddings and family pictures that have the same trouble as the people who shoot nature and wildlife. I know people who shoot all different cameras, different types, different everything. They have different business models, and they all have the same issue. And the same thing is stopping them from going from being a bad photographer to a good photographer, or a good photographer to a great photographer. So what is it? What's that one thing that will make a huge difference in your photography? It is a simple thing, and that is time, patience, and don't rush. Now you say, well, what does that have to do with photography? I've seen some amazing photographers rush out, snap a couple pictures, come back and get them out of focus and not have a great picture. I've seen people who have rushed out. Just the other day I actually saw this. Somebody that pulled up to a beautiful waterfall, hopped out of their vehicle, ran to the waterfall, snapped 3 or 4 pictures, got back in their vehicle and took off again. The problem was that the waterfall was half in shadow and half in sunlight. If they would have waited a few minutes for a cloud to come over, or if they would have waited 20 minutes for the sun to change position, that picture would have went from being a picture to wow picture. I have seen people get out of their vehicle and rush over to somewhere, snap a picture and get back in and take off, and not even see what was on the other side of what they were taking a picture or behind them. I have walked with people. I've gone to weddings with people. I have seen this so often. I have had hundreds, if not thousands of people bring me in digital files to print from professional photographers who are really good photographers. And the pictures that they wanted printed were garbage. Why? Because the photographer only shot one of the entire grouping and somebody's eyes were closed, or somebody wasn't looking, or the lighting just wasn't right, or a tie was askew, or something was wrong. if they would have taken some time to take the picture, look at the scene, make some corrections, and take another picture, it would have went from being an ain't picture to a wow picture. And I see it constantly, not once, not twice, not a few times, but constantly. I teach hundreds of people a year how to take better pictures. And I would have to say that probably with all the mix of issues that they're having, 75% of them have one thing in common, and that is that they rush through taking pictures. And again, whether they're a photographer that shoots weddings and graduations and family pictures, or whether they're a nature and wildlife photographer, they deal with the same issues, and that is they're rushing. Years ago, and I've mentioned this numerous times, I was diagnosed with a lung disease. I had to quit doing weddings because I found it was too much for me to go around doing weddings. But I continued doing my nature and wildlife, and I continued teaching. Just after I was diagnosed, about 2 years after I was diagnosed, I was asked to take these two ladies out for a full day of photography. So we went out to this one area. There was an area that they wanted to photograph in, and we started taking pictures. It was a trail that's very, very popular in the summertime. We started on the trail. Just after we started, a group of about 6 to 8 people went past us all together, and they went steaming up the trail to the local waterfall. Now, it's about a 20-minute hike, maybe 25-minute hike to go up to the waterfall, and about a 15-minute hike to come back. So say an hour to go up there, explore it, take some pictures, enjoy it, and come back. Well, it was under an hour, and I noticed them coming back down the trail. Now, in that time, we had not even covered a kilometer because there was so much stuff to take pictures of. There was mushrooms, there was tiny flowers, there was bugs, there was bird nests, there was bees, there was butterflies. There was just so much stuff to take pictures of. One of the guys that was in the group, he was towards the end of the group, was coming down the trail, and you could tell he didn't have a very good day. He had a camera with him, and he sort of stopped to slow down, and he looked at me and he says, "What are you guys doing?" He says, "You were here when we went up and you're here now. What are you guys doing? Are you at the parks or something?" I said, "No, we're taking pictures." And he says, "Well, we walked up to the waterfall and there was nothing to take pictures of." And I said, "Well, did you see the hawk's nest that's close by the waterfall?" And he went, "No, I never saw that." I said, "Did you see the birds' nests that are just across from the waterfall?" "No, never saw that." "Did you see the butterflies that are up there?" "No, never saw that." I said, "Did you shoot pictures of the waterfall?" "Yeah, I got one of that, but the lighting wasn't very good." I said, "Well, did you wait for the clouds to come over? Did you wait for it?" "No, never waited for that." I says, "Well, you see, there's so much to photograph that rushing through is just doing your photography a disservice." And I tried explaining it to him, and he just didn't get it. Well, the two ladies I was with, we didn't even cover, I don't even think in the whole day we covered more than 2 kilometers because we ran out of time. And they had shot so many pictures. They could not believe how much stuff that they saw to shoot. And they would see a mushroom, and they would take a picture of the mushroom. Then they would get down, they'd take another picture. They'd move this way and take another picture. They would wait for the sun to move or the cloud to move or whatever, and they'd take more pictures. They'd come back to it half an hour later. There's so much that we can take pictures of. There's so much that we can do to pictures to make them look better, that when we rush through them, we're doing ourselves a huge, huge disservice. And we're not improving our photography. You can know everything technical about photography. You can spend the most money possible on the best camera and lenses, the tripod that everyone drools over. You can take courses. You can learn everything. But if you're rushing through it, you're still getting yourself horrible pictures. And this is what happens constantly. So slow down, take the pictures, change your view, change your settings, look at stuff. If you do people pictures, rearrange people a little bit, move them this way, move them that way, space the group out so that they're not all balled up on one side and close together, and the other side they're a mile apart. Space them out properly, check ties, check dresses to make sure they're laying properly, check to make sure that people are looking, check to make sure that there's not food around the baby's face. Take the time to go through stuff like that, because that will make your pictures that are good fantastic. Or if they're just okay, it'll make them a lot better. Yes, knowing how to take pictures. Yes, good equipment. Yes, all of the stuff like that will help. But the biggest thing is if you rush, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So slow down and take some pictures. So until next time, get out there, take some pictures, enjoy it, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.